What's up, guys? Nuance Bro checking in, and today we're going to be talking about Candace Owens, her appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, and specifically where they talked about global warming. Now, before we start, I just want to state that global warming is a very complex and nuanced issue, but oftentimes people on either side, first of all, it's not a binary issue, first of all, but people on different sides of the issue tend to simplify it for their own sort of political convenience. But it's not an issue that you can just kind of reduce down to these sort of easy one-liner talking points that appeal to the masses. What I don't like about the global warming debate is oftentimes people are citing people who are not even scientists. People like Al Gore, who have made verifiably false predictions, and which does nobody any favors. I mean, he says things like the polar ice caps should have melted in 2014 and the Miami Keys were supposed to be underwater 10 years ago. And these are verifiably false. And people still try to take him seriously. These are people who, they don't deserve to be part of the public debate, and they shouldn't be cited for anything because their past predictions have been proven to be false. So you got to take the extremes out of it and just kind of deal with the data and deal with the science. But when it comes to Candace Owens, she's not really looking at the science here, and we're going to get into it with the video, but she's adopting an ideology. She's adopting this sort of what she perceives to be the conservative orthodoxy, or like the right-wing position, because that's who she's appealing to. That's where, you know, the money comes in from that side. That's who the viewers are. So she kind of appeals to what she thinks they like, but she's not even adopting a position that most conservatives or conservative politicians, or, you know, whoever she identifies as, it's not even the position that most of those people take. The position tends to be either, the very sort of on the progressive side of things, they say global warming is entirely caused by humans. They're the ones primarily making this happen, and we can reverse it and change it, blah, 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 if we just stop with all the carbon emissions. And then there's the other side that says, well, climate change is happening, but the extent to which humans contribute to it is more unknown. We can't jump to conclusions and just necessarily sacrifice all this economic progress that comes from, you know, oil, natural gas, and coal, and all those other things, and make a lot of short-term sacrifices for unknown long-term gain. But Candace Owens isn't taking either of those positions. She's just flat out denying the entire thing exists, even though we can measure changes in global temperature over time. I mean, that's a fact. That's not something you could really argue with, but she's just denying the whole thing exists, whether humans are involved or not. She's saying even if it's natural, it's not, global warming isn't happening. And she conflates a lot of things, but we're going to get into the video. But first, if you support this channel and want to support the work being done here, then please consider becoming a supporter on Patreon. And you can gain access to exclusive full interview clips, as well as access to the exclusive Nuance Bro Discord server, where you can chat with other members and myself. So please visit www.patreon.com/nuancebro to support the channel, and especially if you think we need more nuanced voices in today's world.
As I'm traveling the world and seeing different pieces of the country, I'm learning how ignorant I was. And that's the best thing in the entire world.
Way?
Just, I fell victim to the idea that it was progress, it was progress, it was progress. We have to care about the environment. It was progress. And it's no, we've been losing. America has been losing. And Donald Trump understood that in a way that I didn't. And
I don't think we have to care about the environment?
No, not even a little bit.
Not even a little bit?
No. Okay, let me clarify this. I don't throw trash on the ground.
Okay.
I'm not saying we need to trash the environment. But do I believe in climate change? No.
She starts out with kind of this dismissive chuckle where Joe Rogan asks, you don't believe we should protect the environment? And she goes, no, not even a little bit. And then she clarifies, she says, I don't believe in littering, throwing trash outside of the window or whatever. Thank goodness she doesn't believe in littering. Take care of the the planet that you live on. Don't make a mess out of it. Treat it like your room. But she says she doesn't believe in climate change. So let's look into it further. She's speaking with a lot of certainty, by the way. Just starting off with this, when you have a dismissive chuckle like that, not even a little bit, no, I don't believe in it. You're speaking with a lot of certainty and a lot of hubris at that point. It's not speaking. He's like, I don't know. Maybe, I'm not sold on it. She's not saying that. Seems very certain in her belief.
You don't believe in climate change?
Well, I think the climate always changes, I guess is what I should say. Do I believe that this is like, an issue that is being, that is global warming, which they've changed conveniently. They got rid of the word once scientists started disproving it. Now they only say climate change. No, I think that was just a way to extract dollars from Americans. I don't at all believe. They had no actionable plan. It was great for Trump to get out of that deal. It was terrible.
Okay, but this is an incredibly complicated subject.
Right.
And if you would have to talk to a bunch of different scientists and see how they gather data and see what they understand about CO2 levels and what's the danger of them and what can combat it and what could not. Have you done all this, or do you take this flippant opinion based on the party line?
This wouldn't be the hill I died on, right? But it's not about the party. I just genuinely, I've read a ton about it, but I would not be able to come to you and say like, this is my strong opinion.
So Joe Rogan comes in with the nuance, and he's kind of trying to be like, look, Candace, this is a complicated issue, right? I mean, there's a lot of science here. You gotta talk to people. You gotta learn about it. And she's saying, right. And he's asking, have you done this? She says, no. But then she says, oh, but I've read a ton about it. Also, one thing that's interesting, I love this little cop-out that she does where she says, look, this isn't the hill I would die on, right? So this way, it's almost like plausible deniability. She could say, look, I never said, going back looking on this interview, she can always say, look, I never said I was 100% sure. I said this isn't the hill I would die on. But she speaks with so much certainty on the issue, but she goes back and forth between saying, oh, well, this is, I don't believe in it. This is not, no, that's not true. I don't believe it at all. And and she does that dismissive chuckle in the beginning. No, I don't care. You don't need to care about the environment. Not even a little bit. It's not even a big deal. But then she says, look, this isn't the hill I would die on. I've read a ton about it. I mean, it's not very honest of her to be saying this. It seems like she's saying that only to sort of protect her ego in a sense. It's not because she actually believes that she's wrong. She's just saying it sort of to protect herself. Like it's a sort of liability protection in some sort of way. But
here's like the easiest way to say this, right?
Okay.
The fact that there is a disparity in the science community about whether or not it's real is enough to...
It's very little.
Yep.
Very little disparity. Most scientists, the vast majority agree that human beings are negatively affecting climate change.
Yeah.
The vast majority.
Yeah, I just don't think so.
Oh man, this is amazing. So Joe comes and says, no, it's the vast majority of scientists that believe. It's not really a disparity. I mean, if it's 97% versus 3% on not even the issue of climate change existing, which it does, it's on the specific issue of human-caused climate change. And that's what he's citing. But she's just denying climate change altogether. And she's also conflating the name, she says climate change, it was global warming, but now they only use climate change because it was, it's some sort of trick because of weather difference. No, I mean, they still use global warming. It's still correct to use, but when they use the word climate change, it's because the increase in temperature isn't just an increase in temperature. It has other effects, like when it leads to things like hurricanes, and it can lead to downpours and droughts in other areas. So that's a overall climate issue. So they use the word climate change to just encompass more of what global warming affects. So it's not this conspiratorial idea by the Chinese to, extract dollars from America like she was alluding to earlier. But I love how when Joe says, no, it's the vast majority of scientists, it's not even close. She just says, well, I just don't think so. What do you mean you don't think so? Where's the evidence? Where's the facts? You're just saying, I just don't feel like that's true. I don't think that's true. Based on what? Why are you resisting when he's telling you things that are true? Why are you resisting?
So you think that the very few scientists that disagree with the consensus are the ones that are correct?
Well, I think if something is it's either subjective or it's objective, and there are objective truths, right? But it's subjective if you're saying that there are some, and I don't think there's very little.
This is hilarious. Now she's saying it's subjective if there are some scientists who disagree. No, that just means other scientists can be wrong. If you had people saying 2 + 2 = 5 and 99% of people said 2 + 2 = 4, that doesn't mean that math is subjective. It can still be objective, but you can have people be wrong. The argument that she's making, funny enough, is a postmodernist argument. They use that same type of argument to say that nothing is objective, everything is subjective, subject to interpretation. That's why we shouldn't have these sort of grandiose ideologies, general theories about things, all information. I mean, postmodernism, it's hard for me to even explain it because it doesn't make any sense, but this isn't the first time that Candace Owens has used these types of, sort of very far left Marxist, postmodernist talking points / arguments to make her points. It's kind of funny in a way, but it's amazing because her audience is primarily, people who can categorize themselves as right-wing conservatives, and that's who she's trying to appeal to. But funny enough, she's using postmodernist ideology to appeal to them in order to support her argument. It makes no sense. Just because there's a disparity, and a very small one, between scientists, that doesn't make something subjective. You can objectively measure temperature globally on average. That's not a subjective thing. Either it's 97 degrees or it's not. That's not a subjective thing.
The real problem is with climate change is that, for sure, there has been ups and downs throughout the history of this planet. They're observable. They follow them in. I mean, this is one of the subjects that I had earlier today with Dr. Robert Schoch. In 2014, the vast majority, 87% of scientists, said that human activity is driving global warming, yet only half the American public ascribe to that view. So,
well, what website is
87%, and this is
Scientific American.
Yeah.
Yeah, .com though, cause that means it's making money. I don't trust that. If it was a .org, I would probably take that. But this is just a random website, and I don't trust.
Scientific American is not necessarily a random website.
I don't believe this at all. Just so you know.
You don't believe it at all?
I genuinely don't believe it. I know you do, but I genuinely don't believe it.
Yeah, but .com though, this is amazing. Scientific American, she says, is a random website. Scientific American is a pretty well-known, well-respected scientific magazine, and she's calling it a random website. And her argument to the 87% claim isn't the source that they're citing. It's, yeah, but .com though. And then she says, if it was a .org, I'd be more inclined to believe it. Don't forget that point when she says if it was a .org, she would be more inclined to believe it. We'll get back to that. I don't believe this at all. Even Joe, you could see Joe is making fun of it too, because he can't believe how ridiculous she's being. How is that even an argument? How is saying .com though, and then as soon as the evidence is presented, she's not saying, well, maybe I'll look into it a little bit more. I'd like to check out that source. Can we actually not just look at scientificamerican.com, but the actual thing they're citing? Can we go to the source and maybe check that out, see how legitimate that is? She's not saying any of that. She just right off the bat denies it straight up and says, I just want you to know, I don't believe this at all. It's almost like you're talking to a 5-year-old who's just being really stubborn about something instead of having a genuine conversation with you. She gets very defensive, and she doesn't like to, give any ground on any sort of issue where she's established what her beliefs are. I've never seen her apologize. I've never seen her really say, okay, I was wrong about that. You're right. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll look into something further. She doesn't have that sort of ability, that humility to just come and admit, maybe I don't know something. She doesn't seem comfortable enough to say that. She gets very defensive. You'll see that later in this interview.
Forget the fact of whether you believe global warming is real. Let's say it's 100% real. Let's say we know for a fact it's real. Is there a way?
Well, let's be clear.
Yeah.
Global warming, climate change is definitely real. It's happening.
Well,
the question
but
is
it's
why
always
has it happened?
happened.
Yes, it has always happened.
So what is this is the
real-
climate change? Yes, the climate changes. It was different weather yesterday than it was today. The climate is forever changing. Like that's the problem, is that people are making it seem like that's something weird.
No,
it's
no,
not
no. That's
unique.
not. You're misrepresenting the issue. The issue is people think that human beings are exacerbating climate
Right.
change to the point where there's a tipping point. We cross over that tipping
Right.
point. We're going to deal with huge problems that could be corrected if we act now and put a lot of funding into climate control.
So this is almost painful to respond to, because Joe's trying to talk about climate change and how it's real. It's a thing that's happening. And she says, well, it's always been happening. He says, oh yeah, it definitely has. And then she goes in and she conflates weather, daily changes in weather, with climate. So she's saying it was different weather yesterday than it is today, as if that's the same thing as climate. Climate, the overall trends over decade-long periods, is different than day-to-day weather patterns in local areas. That's not the same thing. And it's hard to know whether she genuinely knows the difference and she's just being dishonest about it, or if she's just that unaware of what the actual difference is between weather and climate. But it's amazing that she conflates the two, because she says in the beginning she doesn't believe in climate change, but now she's saying climate change is always happening, but she's conflating it with weather. It's just, I honestly don't even know how to respond to it, because she goes back and forth, up and down all the time about what's going on. And Joe seems kind of flabbergasted by it too. He doesn't know how to respond to it either, because she's not making any sense.
Human beings, if they never existed, the Earth has constantly gone through cycles. The question is not whether or not the Earth has gone through cycles of cooling and warming.
Right.
The question is, are we exacerbating that? The vast majority of scientists say we are.
Okay.
Now, this could negatively impact all sorts of coastal cities. This could be a gigantic problem. This is not like propaganda that's drummed up by some sort of big business that seeks to make money off of this, or some sort of a
They were making
organization.
money off of it.
Al Gore might have made some money off
No,
of
but
it.
like
Who's making money
the
off
agreement
of
that
it?
we were in, they were that was like the amount of money that America was losing. But here's what I was going to ask you. So let's just
Wait a minute, the amount of money America was losing? Who's
in
America?
the Paris Agreement. This is the reason why we
Okay.
wanted to get out of the Paris Agreement.
But
that's what I wanted to get to.
there's
So let's say we all
arguments about
agree
the
that
Paris
global
Agreement.
warming is real. I don't believe it's real.
So Joe does a decent job here trying to explain the issue. He's saying, look, it's not just about whether the Earth has naturally gone through cycles in the past, which it definitely has, and it goes through this. It's a natural occurrence in the Earth for it to go through warming and cooling periods. But he's saying the rate at which it has changed during, the modern era is something that's unprecedented and you don't see in the past. And that he's saying that's what the majority of scientists believe, and that's what they argue. And after he goes through explaining all of that, Candace just kind of dismisses it. And then she talks about the Paris Climate Accords, or the Paris Climate Agreement. And she says how America was losing a bunch of money doing that. What? Where is the evidence for that? Now, you could say that America would lose money if it adhered to the provisions of that agreement. But it wasn't, and it's not even a binding agreement. That's the thing. The Paris Climate Agreement wasn't a binding agreement. The U.S. didn't have to, do any of that. So there was no money being lost because we hadn't done anything to comply with it. There was no money being lost. So she's just kind of pulling things out of her ass here.
But why
Right.
are you saying that you don't think it exists?
I don't know. Maybe because it got
Here
so
it is.
maybe
Studies-
because it got so politicized.
Studies into scientific agreement on human-caused global warming, and look at all the studies. It's between 100% and 91% at the lowest. 91% of one of the studies from 2014.
This is the Union of Concerned Scientists.org.
Yeah, they almost. It's a pretty broad
Right.
consensus.
Who are they polling? Is it the people that are a
Scientists?
part of this
It's a good
.org?
question.
That's what I'm asking. That just numbers can be
10,306 scientists to confirm over 97% of climate scientists agree, and over 97% of the scientific articles find that global warming is real and largely caused by humans.
Right.
So my question to you is, if you want to step outside of the scientific consensus, which is vast and involves 10,306 scientists, and just say, I don't believe in it, even if you're right, you don't have enough information to say that.
Right. No,
you might be
but that's what I
correct,
said. That's the whole
you're
point.
saying you don't believe
I
it.
don't. Yeah, I would have to have someone sit down and convince me that it was real. I personally don't believe it. That's okay.
But why?
It's good to start at a
here's the
place of
thing.
not believing something.
No, it's not.
You think you should start with believing everything.
No.
So this is amazing. So he brings up a .org website, according to her standard earlier of, well, like .com though. If it was a .org, I'd be more inclined to believe it. So Jamie pulls up a .org website that cites how it's, 91 to 99% or whatever of scientists and scientific articles support this idea of, human-caused climate change and all of that stuff. Not even just climate change period, but human-caused climate change specifically. So overall climate change would be even higher. But she goes and she says, well, I just don't, I don't believe it. And he's like, well, why would you say that? And he's like, no, she says it's okay not to believe. And then he says, no, it's not. So she goes into this straw man of saying, oh, so you think you should just go into believing everything. She does this Kathy Newman, the same thing that Kathy Newman did with Jordan Peterson, where she was saying, so what you're saying is,
Jordan Peterson, you're saying you've done your research and women are unhappy dominating men.
I didn't say they were unhappy dominating men.
You're just saying that's the way it is.
Well, I'm not saying
But you're
anything.
saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top. You're saying, well, that's just a fact of
Not
life.
saying
Women
it
aren't
doesn't
necessarily
matter.
going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
basically telling him, restating what he was saying in a way that he didn't actually say it, so it makes her argument look better. And it's just totally dishonest. I mean, it's crazy. Oh, so you should just go in believing everything. And then Joe responds,
You think you should start with believing everything.
No, it's not believe either or. Not believe yes, not believe no.
Yeah.
But don't say you don't believe.
Yeah.
Learn about it.
Yeah.
Learn about it and then have an opinion. But you're stating this opinion without having any real understanding of what climate science is.
But that's exactly what an opinion is.
this is amazing. So Joe's going, he's like, no, don't believe either or. Don't say you believe or you don't believe. Just say you're comfortable. Just say, I don't know. I don't have enough information from going here. And then she says, oh, but that's what an opinion is. Basically, her idea of an opinion is not knowing enough information, but deciding to have an opinion on something that you don't have enough information on. No, that's not what an opinion is. That's what an uninformed opinion is. That's what a stupid opinion is. You want to have informed opinions, not just an opinion. No, that's not what an opinion is.
They're polling, 10,000 scientists that are within a community that is like these .orgs. Do you believe in everything that MediaMatters.org puts out for statistics? Right, that's a political arm of the Democratic
We're talking
Party.
about a different subject.
I know, but I'm just
politics versus science.
But this has been politicized.
This is amazing. She literally just brought up a counterpoint to her earlier point. She's almost arguing with herself. So she was saying earlier, yeah, if it was a .org, I'd be more inclined to believe it. But now she's saying, yeah, but just because it's a .org, I mean, do you believe MediaMatters.org? It's not like Joe was making that .org argument to begin with. That's the point that you made. You were the one saying .org is more legitimate and that's something you would be more inclined to believe. Now you're bringing this MediaMatters.org thing into play as if that was an argument Joe was making when you're actually just refuting your own point here. So she's setting it up in a way where her point will always be right and she can always justify why she believes or disbelieves something, but she'll just go in circles trying to justify what she believes without actually having any evidence. It's really amazing.
People listen to you and they're going to listen to you for a long time,
But this is what I hate. This is what I hate.
But hold
because
on,
then it's
let me
like,
finish
Candace,
what
you
I'm saying.
have to have a formed opinion on everything.
No, you don't have to have a formed opinion on everything. What you do have to have is the ability to know when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
But I just said that. I said that to you the entire time.
I said
this
believe
would,
it.
I said I don't believe it. And then you asked me and I said this wouldn't be the hill I chose to die on because I don't
But why
follow
even
it.
say you don't believe in it?
Because I just personally, if you
how about not have a belief until you really have looked at the
you
data?
would prefer if my language, as opposed to admitting that I do not know this, I wouldn't die on this hill, I've never made a video, I've never made a public statement. You would have preferred if I had just started by saying I have no opinion.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. But you say
But I said I didn't know.
No, you say I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
I don't believe in it. You're saying really clearly that you don't think it's real.
Yeah. So I mean, I think it would be the same if I said to you, like, you know, do you believe in God? Right.
No, I would say I don't know.
You would say so. That's this. I feel like this is sort of like linguistics, though.
No, I would say I don't know.
Okay.
I always say I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm agnostic.
Most people say like I believe it or I don't. Right. So it's like if you say,
I think a lot of people say they don't know.
Okay, I think believe is definitely a word that's associated with God. But
right.
So
but a lot of people
if I
say
say
that
like,
they don't know.
but if you say I don't believe in
God,
God, and then somebody starts saying, "Oh, you need to form it," it's like I just don't believe in it.
No, you don't, because God is not scientific data.
Right.
There's a big difference between measuring the CO2 levels in the atmosphere and deciding whether or not there's an afterlife.
Right. I'm sorry that I just don't believe in global warming.
So I love this exchange. Joe is basically telling Candace, look, you don't have to have a formative opinion on everything. Just be willing to admit when you don't actually know what you're talking about and when you don't have enough information, and just be willing to say, you know what, I'm not as informed on this issue. I just want to say I don't know. I don't have enough information to make a definitive stance. But instead of that, she just goes straight to saying, she does that, that snarky laugh in the beginning. No, you don't need to care about the environment, not even a little bit. No, Joe. Let me teach you, Joe. You don't need to care about the environment. And she goes into all these defensive things and talks about how all the things that Joe is bringing up, I don't believe that like at all. Oh, but like .com though, maybe it was .org, I'd be more inclined to believe it. She goes into all these things, but then now she's trying to pretend like, oh no, I was saying the whole time I don't know. I was telling you this wasn't the hill I would die on. Oh, but this is a linguistic issue you're talking about. This is just linguistics. It's not linguistics. There's a big difference between saying, I deny this actually happening and existing. I deny the scientific evidence that's presented, that's believed by the vast majority of scientists, and saying, I don't know. And she even tries to kind of trick him with the God thing, saying, well, like, wouldn't you say you don't believe? And he's like, no, I would say I don't know. And even then, that's not a good comparison, because God is not scientific data that you can say, oh, I deny this scientific data, or I think it's flawed or whatever. It's more of just a matter of faith. It's not a matter of science.
But you also said you don't believe in it, and you stated the reason why, because you think it's a scam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the truth. What do you want me to do? You want me to lie to you?
No, it's okay, but I'm not
sitting here saying
it's a complicated issue. It's very complicated.
It may be complicated. That's fine. But what do you want me to lie to you and say? I'm not a politician. You want me to? Should the correct term like that? I feel like this is like the editing that people do, like when they're like, oh, Obama, if they ask you a question, you don't know. This is the way. I'm not running for office. I'm answering. Right. I'm talking to you. I don't believe in it.
I appreciate that. I
can't be fake. This is my number one problem in life, is I can't be fake, and I know that you're pressing me here and that you want me to adjust and to say like I do not have an opinion but I'm not like a politician. I'm telling you, I don't believe in it. Could I change my perspective and believe in it a year after I read stuff?
If you were just a regular person and you said I don't believe in it, I'd probably go, all right. The problem is you're not. You're a very influential person.
But I'm aware when I'm on stage, when I'm on my YouTube channel, there's no videos of Candace Owens talking about global warming. I'm aware of that.
There is now.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess I'll end the video here, guys. I just think she gets very defensive instead of just admitting where her shortcomings are and saying, you know what, maybe I went a little too far. Maybe I just don't know as much about this issue as I thought, and I probably shouldn't have categorized my beliefs in those terms in the beginning. I was wrong. I just think she has a hard time taking criticism and, being introspective, and she has a hard time just admitting she's wrong. And I think it's something she should definitely try to improve on, instead of getting so defensive and always saying everything's a personal attack against her and a conspiracy against her, like she, did with a lot of other things in the past, which we won't get into in this video. But yeah, that's the end of the video, guys. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what your comments are. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be mad at me for making this video for, whatever reason. They just can't process an opinion that differs from their own. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Support me on Patreon. Social media links are in the description box below. And I'll see you later, bro.